It's 8:31. The link on the Breeze 93.9. Let's go ahead down to. You okay?
Yeah. That's your jam.
I'm gonna WhatsApp you that track. That's a good wake me upper, man.
It is.
You know what I mean? Let's go down to the Port Authority of Guam, where the general manager Rory Respicio is standing by. I guess Rory, good morning. First of all.
Good morning, Chris and Bree.
Good morning, Rory. Good to see you.
I know we just had the meeting yesterday, so we'll just start there. If you could unpack, I know that you guys put out a release that your finances. I don't know if I'd want to brag about this too much in this financial environment, but you put out a release that the port finances are what they call port strong, right?
There you go.
Yeah, first I wanna congratulate you and Serena for your inaugural show. I like the format. I'm glad I made it on the first week. We did have a board meeting, and I was happy to report to our board of directors that the port finances are stable despite this global pandemic. We have received we're experiencing a little bit of a decline in our container throughput, which is about 5.3% less year to date, which accounts for a $1.5 million decrease in our overall revenue projections year to date. But because we're spending 10% less of our budget year to date, or about $4 million, we're still on track to have a net income of about $4.9 million. But what I presented the board is pretty interesting in a sense that our container throughput is down only 5.3%, considering the decline in tourism, which Governor Gutierrez, now as GVB president, is working hard with administration to get back online. But you know, we've been on credit watch, and Standard & Poor's is tying the port's bonds to tourism, which is the same as the general fund, which is the same as the Guam Airport Authority. And so we're trying to make the argument that despite the decline in tourism, if you look at our container throughput year to date, and it's still showing that there's spending that's happening in this economy. It's what Governor Lulian Guerrero and Lieutenant Governor Josh Tenorio are saying, with all this pandemic unemployment insurance circulating, with all the federal assistance circulating. It's really reflective in the amount of cargo that the port is putting through the island. We have about 90% of the commodities coming to the port. And so that was my report to the board. I also asked pause of the board to recognize the hardworking employees of the Port Authority of Guam who allow us to remain optimal efficiencies. We're 100% operational with Deputy General Managers Louis Baza and Dominic Munya. Every single day is a new day for us here at the port. No days alike. We just asked employees to stay focused and recognize that their value to the community when they come to work means that the grocery shelves with food and vegetables and all those commodities coming in, it's because of their work that makes those kinds of things possible. Right. We had a very good board meeting yesterday.
Right. You know, speaking of the hardworking Port Authority employees, I was just reading over a release that was sent, I believe last week or earlier this week, on how the port is continuing to assist in COVID-19 operations. If you wanted to talk about that.
Yeah, Governor Leon Guerrero has asked us early on to look at the port as not only discharging vessels, putting a container from the ship to a chassis and bring it out to community. She's asked us to work closely with the Guam Customs and Quarantine to help them with their container inspection facility. We recently received a $1.6 million grant to update our 2020 master plan, and that's a key component in that. And from time to time, the Port Authority assists the PD mayor. We do assist the administration in some of these projects that the community has to experience. Dominic Munya is very active with the food provisions that's being distributed. We adopted JP San Miguel as part of DOE Adopt a School program. And for the upcoming beautification project by the Lieutenant Governor Tenorio, our area is from Fisheye all the way up to Cabras area where GPA is, that corner, and also extending, working our way to the governor's office. But you know, we're trying to diversify the port so it's not just an industrial area. our maintenance crews worked really hard we have our own street sweeper. And so we're seeing a lot of activity in the evenings with the bikers. We're seeing like moms will bring their kids to take swimming lessons at USO, and they'll get on their bikes and they'll ride all the way into past Hotel Wharf and Family Beach area. And so we stepped up our maintenance. We stepped up our port police presence. We're marketing the port to be beyond just your traditional port where it's all industrial. We're diversifying our revenue base, and we're also looking at how we can contribute to the community, and it's what the governor and the lieutenant governor has asked us to do.
Rory,
the board's been.
What kind of update can you give us on Colt San Nicolas? Of course, the Port Authority police officer who was arrested and charged with just a whole bunch of sexual assault charges. I know that he was making a request to come back to work or something. So can you tell us anything on that?
Yeah, I could say that he has not been allowed to come back to work. I did take some administrative action, and because it's a personal matter, I cannot speak beyond to what I just told you.
I know you just said you can't speak beyond to what you just told me, but are you able to tell us the administrative action that you took? Was it a termination or
suspension?
No, I can't because it's still an ongoing personal matter.
Okay.
And there's still that IA that's being conducted, the internal affairs investigation being conducted by the port police chief and the human resources administrator.
Right. And then I kind of course, I want to ask about the Port 7. There was some stuff in the news recently about FOIA that was sent, people trying to find out about these settlements. And I know that they had determined that those settlements were actually disclosable. Can you kind of walk us back to the beginning of that? Because I was on leave. Like, did you not want to release the settlement info?
He was the one who was for public disclosure.
So after the AG had opined that they were in fact disclosable to the public, you said that that's what you wanted to do all along?
No. Thank you for the question,
Okay.
and you can have an opportunity to clarify yourself.
Okay.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, and that Sabrina's right though, that when our two former port councils gave an opinion that because these cases are all linked together, that they're not disclosable. Those cases that have been adjudicated one way or the other aren't disclosable. The position I took was that no, once you have a settlement agreement, either it's a Supreme Court, Civil Service Commission, or board ordered mandate, then and you spend port funds, then that is disclosable. When the public auditor wrote to me and said that he wants to look into all the Port 7, at the time there were about 3 Port 7 settlements that were already adjudicated. When he wanted to look into how those settlements were handled administratively by the port, I wrote back to him and I said, Mr. Public Auditor, can you not just limit your audit into the Port 7? Can you also look at all the other settlements, the Supreme Court order with Mayor Susuiko? There's Ken Yoshida, who was with also had an adverse action, and that was settled. So we gave the public audit agreed to open it up. I also asked him to reconcile a legal opinion that said that these settlements are not disclosable, and if he could ask the Attorney General for an opinion. So he did, BJ Cruz did. He asked the Attorney General for that legal opinion. The Attorney General gave a legal opinion saying that you got to take these things on a case-by-case basis, and if that individual case is still going through the system and it hasn't been fully adjudicated, then that particular case is not disclosable, but we don't get to tie all these cases together. Right. And so when the AG opinion came out, I did a release saying that we applaud the AG's opinion because it's exactly what we've been trying to do from the beginning here at the port, to be fully transparent, to be accountable. You recall when Mr. Baza made the presentation to the board regarding the final Port 7 cases. He didn't do it in executive session. He did it in an open session so that the board can get the same information as the community can get the same information all at the same time. And so to the contrary, we weren't operating in secrecy. We didn't have any secret board meetings, and I just didn't want to release the the FOIA request that was made by another media outlet, and have our own lawyer say that I
Right.
jeopardized these cases because I released all the settlement agreements.
Rory, I feel like this is just the Port 7. It's just kind of a done deal. But if you could maybe address some of the appearances of conflicts in that, one of the Port 7, Bernadette, who's Meno, who's since been reinstated down there at the port. I mean, she worked for you. She worked for BJ. We have the Attorney General who actually getting legal fees for this whole thing. So I guess if you could just speak to that, are you able to tell the public confidently that you were adequately, and even I guess BJ and Levin, you guys were adequately walled off from this whole process?
Well, absolutely, Chris. And early on when you interviewed me, I was very clear that I didn't realize what my conflict was. My conflict is no more than the conflict of the former general manager, who's no longer general manager, who keeps pushing this from the outside in. But I said that because there's an appearance of impropriety, perception is very important. I walled myself off from the very beginning, and I had no doing with this whole process. And so I immediately created a task force that I had the former deputy general manager be in charge of, because I said that if it's politics that got them fired, it's certainly not going to be politics that's going to bring them back. And they was going through the task force process, and when Mr. Baza was hired by the board, he hit the ground running, given his vast, extensive experience in the merit system, understanding the 60-day rule as the rule of law. And if you just follow everything from the Supreme Court decision in the Jojo Guevara case, where the port did not file within 60 days, it was a domino effect, because the port made the argument that all of these 7 cases are interconnected. And so if they're interconnected, they all get the same start date of when management knew or should have known. And then that's how you count the 60 days. But what the media, not KOAM, but what other media is not pointing out is that the proposal that Mr. Baza presented to the board actually saved the board and the Port Authority of Guam, $1 million by moving forward on these settlement agreements. But then there also needs to be some focus on why they weren't filed. These cases weren't filed within the 60 days. And even at that, there's very little public discussion on how all 5 of the 7 won their cases through the merit process. They either prevailed at the Civil Service Commission, prevailed at the Superior Court, prevailed at the Supreme Court, and the only remaining 2, the only reason why they didn't get a merit hearing is because they were still waiting for those other processes to be resolved. But once the ALJ ruled in the Meno case that if you pick 3 different dates of when management knew or should have known, it went anywhere from 63 days to, I believe, 93 days. Following that, ALJ Miller wrote a ALJ decision, a proposed order for the Civil Service Commission, that said that in the Gisette Javalosa case, that also the Port Authority failed to file within 60 days. And then they even went further and said that if you look at what they're being accused of doing, it even at that, even if they did what they didn't merit any adverse action. And adverse action is not only termination, it's also suspension, it's demotion. So in one way, shape, or form, the port would have been on the hook for having to reinstate these employees, providing for the back pay. And one of the things that Mr. Baza was able to negotiate is that these settlements had to include with mitigation. So whatever monies they made throughout the course of that 7-year period was subtracted. And in the case of Vivian Leon, we were facing a $1.2 million settlement, but she agreed that not for the port not to pay back into the retirement fund. So her settlement was about almost $300,000. Those are the details that that people don't really want to talk about. And even though you said you think it's over, we don't think it's over because these 7 employees are still being treated as if though they did something wrong.
But there are, can we just get, is there a total amount that all the settlements and the attorney fees and the back pay and all that stuff, do you have like just a number? Is it, how much million or all of the 7? Okay.
I do. So it's about 3.1 million. And another thing that we did, Chris and Sabrina, is that in the fiscal year 2019 budget, we budgeted for these positions, not because, we thought they were going to come back. We just thought that if these positions were budgeted since day one, then the port wouldn't, and the positions have not been filled, then the port would not have to scramble to have to
Right,
figure out how to pay these things. So in 2019, we budgeted these positions. The public auditor in fiscal year 2019 audit, he was very pleased that the Port Authority finally booked $3.1 million in contingent liabilities. So we expensed all of these things in fiscal year 2019, which we went from $103,000 negative in 2018. We made almost $7 million immediately that 1 year following our first year here in office. We booked out $3.1 million for the contingent liabilities, and then we had to fund another $2 million from a migration salary study that wasn't budgeted by the port. And so we still had a net income of about $3.5 million. And one of the things that Mr. Baza was able to secure in this settlement proposal is that we would have staggered payments, and that also helped our cash flow. Right now, we're trying to have a better posture in the bond market, and if we can get our cash reserves up to 500 days, it'll give us a better credit rating standing. But if we had to pay all of these settlements because either the Civil Service Commission told us or the Supreme Court told us we had to do it, we would have to pay that all within 30 days, as opposed to the staggered settlement agreement that he was able to realize.
Okay.
Well, thanks, Rory,
Yeah,
for
sorry.
clearing all of that up. I
Yeah.
also just wanted to clear something up as well, just a statement that she had made that Bernadette, she had never worked for BJ Cruz. So.
My bad. I misspoke on that.
Okay.
Sorry, Bernadette. Yeah, Rory, thanks for. And when I said it's over, I just feel like there's no. I mean, we have the oversight of the port has already said that, in his opinion, this has run its course and they've done everything that they have to do. The Attorney General, obviously, we know where he sits on it. So I didn't mean it's over. It's over. I just mean that I don't think there's any party that is outside of this whole process that would provide any kind of outside scrutiny. Because I mean, let's just face it, it's kind of lined up from top to bottom, from Adelup down to the port. And that's what I meant when I said it was over.
What you mean by lined up, Chris? But I do want to say that since all seven has been back, the 7 years that they weren't at the port, if you do a deep dive, every single division that they were in suffered. From the finances to the HR to marketing. They haven't done an annual report in the last 7 years. But now that the seven are back, you're starting to see a lot of
hey, we're getting
mobility.
some press releases, Rory. That's
Yeah.
what I got to say. We haven't got a port press release. I mean, let's just say it's been a minute. So keep them coming. Thanks, Rory.
Thanks. And
Okay.
hi, Governor Gutierrez.
Yeah, let's get hey, let's bring up former Governor Gutierrez here, if we could. Could we get him on?